Hello all you wonderful, beautiful, and craptastic people. CraptasticJack here. Today we're going to be talking about Atmosphere in Need for Speed 2019. Now this is a topic that needs a lot of discussion, mainly because the last Need for Speed game, Need for Speed Payback, the atmosphere was total garbage. It was very bland. I'm going to straight up say that. There really wasn't a good atmosphere in game. And with Need for Speed games today, one thing that really sets them apart from other racing games is that their atmosphere is usually a bit different. Racing games nowadays seem to have this whole happy, yay, like festival atmosphere. While Need for Speed, on the other hand, has usually had this dark, tone-ish kind of illegal atmosphere, illegal street racing atmosphere, while other games mainly had the whole woohoo festival, legal racing atmosphere. And this is something I really want to talk about because, in my opinion, that's one of the unique selling points of Need for Speed games nowadays, is the whole cops and robbers and the illegal street racing vibe that you get from Need for Speed games. Now, I just want to point out something. As many of the issues that Need for Speed 2015 had, one of the things it did probably perfectly was atmosphere. The atmosphere in Need for Speed 2015 was really good. You really felt like you were an illegal street racer. You really felt like you were breaking the law. You felt like the cops were coming, like the cops were like, they weren't a threat. I'm not gonna lie. The cops were easy, but if the cops were really tough in that game, then it could have been even better. The atmosphere, you felt like you were an illegal street racer, and you felt like you were dirty. You felt grimy, and that felt awesome. Like, that's a great feeling. That's the kind of feeling you need when you're playing a Need for Speed game set in a legal underworld-esque city area. Games like Hot Pursuit still kind of have that vibe, the whole illegal aspect, like, hey, we're not supposed to be doing this, and the fact that cops come after you makes it feel like that. Compare that to games like The Crew 2, which have an awful atmosphere with the whole legal, oh, everything's legal, but you can still drive around and smash into people, commit felony hit and run, and commit all these crimes. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in games like The Crew 2, and The Crew 2 is something that atmosphere is something The Crew 2 definitely struggles with, but Need for Speed, for the most part, has had a good grasp on atmosphere, even with like Rivals, like Payback, and not Payback, we're getting the Payback in a second, but The Run, Hot Pursuit, Underground, Most Wanted, it's had their atmosphere mostly in check for most games. However, Payback is an exception. Payback's atmosphere was very pee-pee poo-poo. You didn't feel like you were an illegal street racer. You didn't feel like what you were doing was really wrong half the time. Hell, the cops don't even come after you during races. They go, like, they're programmed to go after other, like, AI that aren't even in the race. But, like, when you're street racing illegally, by the way, it doesn't feel like it. It honestly feels like it's sanctioned half the time. It feels like Pro Street, but on the streets and not sanctioned. Because if you know Pro Street was all about legal racing. It was sanctioned and everything, but it still had a really good atmosphere for what it was. But Payback, the cops don't come after you at any time when you're street racing, except, and I say except for when you're on the final leg of the Outlaws Rush. That's it. That's the only time they come after you when you're racing. Now, when you are doing Jess's like outlaw missions, the runner missions, they obviously come after you, but you're kind of on your own committing crimes that aren't really related to street racing. So really, and the whole problem kind of leads back to the fact that there's no free roam police. If there were free roam police in Payback, I wonder if the cops would actually come after you, because there is evidence in the game files that kind of shows that like free roam police were going to be a thing in Payback. So I wonder if they were kind of banking on that, because in 2015, cops aren't really programmed to come after you during races. They're just roaming around on the streets while you're in a race, and they'll come after you when you're racing. And they never keep up, but they're still there. They still have a presence during your street races. I feel like races in Payback could be a lot cooler if the police were free roam. And with the same way they are, with how aggressive they are in Payback, if they were free roam, then I think... and if the cops come after you during races, I feel like it would have been a lot better. The atmosphere would have been there. Like, you're still, even if you're racing in the noon time, at like daytime, middle of the day, cops still coming after you when you're illegally street racing, and you're still racing against people in the inner city. That still feels great. That still feels grimy. It still feels illegal. Like, you still feel like you're breaking the law. 2015 Payback, when you're street racing in Payback, you don't feel like you're breaking the law a lot. You just feel like, oh, hey, cops don't really care. They're kind of hands off. Like nothing really happens. You win and then you move on. Even when you're racing around in the open world, that's one of the things why I don't like cops not being in free roam. I hate the bait crate system, is because the fact that you're roaming around, you're doing all this shit, driving illegally. Because when you're in free roam, you're not driving around most of the time like a normal citizen. Hell, even the AI runs traffic lights in Payback. So like, the fact that there's no cop presence really just brings the whole atmosphere down a lot, and that's something that they really got to work on with 2019. The atmosphere kind of needs to be there. Now, Ghost, Ben did confirm on Reddit a while ago that the next Need for Speed game is going to be more 2015-esque, which is a great thing. So we kind of know already that the atmosphere is going to be more so an illegal underground-esque atmosphere, but they're not out of the ballpark yet. They're not out of the woods. We still gotta have free roam cops in there. There still has to be consequences for our actions. That's the big takeaway from this. There has to be consequences for our actions. Like, if we're illegally street racing or driving around like an idiot, the cops should be coming after you. That for Need for Speed, that has to be a thing. If you're driving around like a retard, the cops should be like, hey, what the fuck, pull over. Now, one thing I do want to see back, and this is like a bit off topic, being able to pull over. Like, say you're at heat level 1. I want heat levels to return, of course, and kind of stay persistent. So after you get into a bunch of pursuits, like, the cops just come after you immediately heat level 3. But when it comes to Need for Speed, like, if you have heat level 1, like, you should just be able to pull over. Once you get to heat level 2, though, yeah, the training wheels come off and you should just have to hightail it out of the cop's way. Heat level 1, you should just be able to pull over. That's something I definitely want to see return from Need for Speed 2015. That was a really good feature. For people who don't feel like getting in car chases, go ahead. Although I really think that, like, when you're driving like an idiot, you deserve to have cops on you. And that's the same feeling I feel with the Crew 2. The Crew 1, if you drove around like an idiot smashing into cops, they'll come after you. That's what they should be in the Crew 2. But this is not a video about the Crew 2. This is about 2019. And really, with the atmosphere, they really got to hit it out of the ballpark. Because atmosphere is probably what kept a lot of people coming back to Need for Speed 2015. Just the game in general. You had that whole illegal underground atmosphere. And that's what people loved about Need for Speed 2015, despite all that game's flaws. And that's why you still see people like Crowned and Jay making showcases on 2015 as opposed to Need for Speed Payback. Because the game looks better, the game has a better atmosphere for what we want out of a Need for Speed game, for what the majority of the community wants out of a Need for Speed game right now, I'd argue, is a game like 2015. And it's good that Ghost is going back towards that direction, and they really need to kind of hone it in, even go deeper underground, make it feel more grimy, make it feel more illegal. Like, make the cops an actual threat this time. Like, take Payback's, like, aggressiveness cops, but put it in the open world. Like, have helicopters, have spike strips, have SWAT teams come after you. Like, that stuff makes you feel more like what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is illegal. You're not the good guy, you're the bad guy. And that's the feeling I want to get out of a Need for Speed game. With Need for Speed 2019, I'd like to see, one thing I definitely would like to see in 2019, like for an example, is the more you crash up your car before heading back to a garage, the more like you're able to repair it through a gas station. But it'd be cool to see, like, instead of like your car getting repaired totally, your car just like say you crash to the point where your bumper's falling off. You take it to a gas station and you have to pretty much zip it back up with zip ties. Like something very ghetto-esque like that. Like something you can't really do on the road. Like the more you smash up the car, the more your car looks a bit like it's still smashed up, but like hastily repaired until you get back to a garage. That would be such a cool thing. And it would lead more to the underground illegal atmosphere, because stuff like that happens in the illegal street racing scenes around America. So that's another just little cool tidbit that I like to see them throw in there to make the game really feel alive, to the point where you know it's illegal, you know what you're doing is wrong. Because Payback, you didn't feel like that. You didn't really feel like you didn't have that atmosphere. You knew what you were doing is wrong, but you never felt like you had any consequences for it. Like even when you get busted in Payback, it's just like your character just goes, "Oh, dang nabbit, they caught me," and then all the cops disappear. You go on your willy-nilly way. Like with 2019, I'd like to see there actually be consequences. Like when you get busted a bunch of times, your car gets impounded, stuff like that. And the higher heat level you go, the more you have to pay in a fine. Like the fines could actually be like substantial. Like I remember, and this is Test Drive Unlimited too, the first one, and this is Test Drive Unlimited 1, by the way. I led cops on like a good like 5-10 minute police pursuit. I got pulled over finally, and my fine was like $70,000, and I had like no money to pay it. Like, the fine should be pretty big. If you're driving around, like, the more you smash into shit, the more cars you take out during a pursuit, that has to rack up your bounty, that racks up your total cost for that pursuit. Like, that's how much you should pay. You should be having to pay out the ass. And really, like, there should really be a risk versus reward thing. Do I just want to pull over, give up, and pay the fine, or do I want to risk it and run? Like, that's the type of decisions we should be able to make in 2019. because there is no risk versus reward in Payback, and there really is not much in 2015. You can go on like a 10-minute high-speed pursuit, get busted in 2015, and pay like what, 5-10 grand, which is nothing in that game. You can earn that back in a race or two. Like, make getting busted in 2019 sting, and right there you're already leading into a better atmosphere because the cops are actually a threat, and that's something I really want to see in a Need for Speed game, and just racing games in general, because racing games in general, they're taking out cops left, right, and center. Need for Speed right now is the only AAA racing game doing cops right now. So I'm really hoping that they kind of nail it in the park. Nail it in the park? I hope they nail it on the head with Need for Speed 2019. I'm hopeful that they will. But that's going to be all for now. What do you guys think about the atmosphere in Need for Speed 2019? Do you think it's good that they're going back to a 2015-esque theme, or do you think they should kind of like nail it back a bit and do something other than that? But that's going to be all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see some more craptastic content, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you don't ever miss an upload. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitch and join my Discord to be able to chat with me and some others. That's all for now, guys. Have a good one.